but we will start in the East. We have the top 4 seeds. You have Purdue at number 1. Not a huge surprise there. Number 2, we have Marquette. Raider Jim has been telling us about Marquette pretty much for the last month. They vindicated all that with a fantastic weekend, winning the Big East and getting the number 2 seed in the East. Number 3, you have K-State, and number 4, you have Tennessee. Raider Jim, I'll pass it over to you first. What are your thoughts on the East Regional?
Wow, I got notes on every single game, just a quick blurb on everything. I think that Texas Southern gets the play in on this one. That's my personal guess on that. As far as the rest of the bracket plays out, I think Duke and Tennessee are going to move on after that first round, but I think Duke's run is going to be over after that. I think Purdue and Memphis are going to move on. They're going to, and I believe if that happens, they're going to, Purdue and Memphis, yes, and they will meet on Saturday. Purdue has showed that they are human of late. Yeah. And I think that's just enough. Memphis is on burning up the court. They're moving so fast. Watch for Memphis to take Purdue out of this one, the first number 1 to fall. And then also, it's not going to be a surprise to me. It might be to some. You hear Tom Izzo and the Michigan Spartans got their way. Michigan State Spartans got their way into the tournament. So wow, it's just like old times. No, it really isn't just like old times. These aren't the Spartans of old. Watch for the Trojans to take down the Spartans. That's my other guess. And then the other one, I would say this is my big. If I'm going to have an upset, if you want to have the one guess that's going to take your bracket and put you over the top, for me, it's at least in that first round. For me, it's going to be when number 11 Providence takes out Kentucky. I believe they're playing Kentucky. Is that correct? Yep. Yes. And they're going to take out Kentucky. They're going to advance on to play Kansas State. Kansas State will prevail, but there it is. There's your Providence, number 11, going to put one last good game together for the season.
Yeah, it was a really interesting Big East tournament for a lot of those teams. Providence, I think, 11 seed, I know they're just happy to be in the tournament, at this point. But I felt like that, it was a little tough for them. They had such a good start to the year, maybe struggled. I agree with you on Purdue as well. Had a good Big Ten tournament. But I do think maybe got a little, I don't want to say lucky that, it was Penn State they were playing in the final. But, it could have been a tougher challenge for them. But I will say the one team that jumps out to me it is Duke. I think I think myself, I probably kind of slept on them a little bit. They're not ranked, or they haven't been a top 10 team like we're so used to. Of course, no more Coach K. But I really do think they have an opportunity. Now, they have a really tough matchup against Oral Roberts. Not a huge fan of College of Charleston and Oral Roberts, 2 30-win teams getting 12 seeds. I know they're in, the kind of the low major conferences, but that's real tough for Oral Roberts to have, maybe one of the best players in the country and Max Abus and, 30 wins this year, and they get Duke straight out of the gate. I think that's going to be a real tough challenge for Duke, but if they can get by that, keep an eye on Duke going forward. Myself personally, if I have to pick a winner in this region, I really wanted to go Purdue, but like I said, I just haven't seen enough consistency. And we talked about a few weeks ago, I think the blueprint is out on how to beat Purdue. And that's going to get broken down, especially, into the second weekend. I don't think they're worried too much in the first. I think they get through this first weekend. But I do like Kansas State. I think playing in the Big 12, I know Big 12 isn't coach's type, if you will. But I think overall, I think you're going to see that ability of them kind of having to grind all season to get to this point. I think that pays off. I think Kansas State wins this regional and heads to the Final Four out of the East. But I do think it's going to be a really, really interesting regional with some of the, kind of lower seeded teams. It's not too often you see Duke and Kentucky at 5 and 6 respectively. But Coach, what are your thoughts on the East Regional?
I'm hearing a lot of similarities in regards to some of those major teams. First off, let me talk about who I think will come out, and I chose Marquette. I've bragged about the Big East all season long. I think, I talked about Marquette early in the season. Then they had a little slide, and then they got it going. They have a good group of transfers that had came in, and guys that are returning for a team that Shaka Smart adopted from the previous coaching regime. So, I pick Marquette. I think size-wise, they match up very well with a lot of those top 4 teams, top 8 teams across the nation. They have athletic big, they have mobile wings, they have a really smart, heady point guard and Tyler Kolek, who was a transfer portal transfer. And when you're looking at ball distributors throughout the nation, he might be one of the top 3 ball distributors, not scoring point guards, but a point guard that will actually get rid of the rock, put it in the right position for his teammates to score. So I really like Marquette. I really think Shaka Smart has done a marvelous job. This is a Marquette team that was picked 9th in the Big East, and to win it and to win it outright and to win it convincingly, this might be Shaka Smart's best coaching job of his career. Forget about the greatness that he did at VCU. And I'm not even going to call Texas a failure. The expectations of Texas boosters really kind of failed them. But Shaka, geez, what he's done, and this is all my thoughts before last week's Raider Jim history lesson on the name Shaka. It's just I've really grown to like him a lot over the seasons. Him leading Marquette out of the East is my pick. As far as Purdue goes, yeah, they've stumbled coming in to this tournament. I was really surprised they got the 1 seed. I don't have them actually leaving past the second round. Raider Jim, I know you picked Memphis to beat them. I actually picked Florida Atlantic. I think that Florida Atlantic Memphis game in that first round might be the most exciting game of this entire region, regardless of all the other matchups. But I actually picked Florida Atlantic to beat Memphis, and I picked Florida Atlantic to beat Purdue. Just because, like we've all said it in the last number of weeks, the blueprint's been out. And when you're facing a team like Memphis or a Florida Atlantic, I don't think Zach Edey, it plays to his strength. These are both 2 speedy teams, and he's a big lug, rightfully so, and has put up numbers as big lugs do. But that doesn't necessarily translate into transition defense or transition offense for the Boilermakers' sake. And yeah, they limped into this 1 seed. I was really surprised that UCLA did not get this 1 seed here. I do like Duke. We've all touched on the quietness of what Duke's done the last number of weeks, and then they win the ACC tournament. I think they're rather low for that line, and regardless of what the prognosticators say the ACC as a whole strength was, they still got 5 teams in. And if they're saying it's a down year for the ACC and they're allowing 5 teams in, I think that shows a whole lot more to Duke's strength than not. I do like Providence. I like Providence over Kentucky. Speaking of that game, Bryce Hopkins is a transfer from Kentucky that made the All Big East first team that plays for Providence. As of late, they've slid. They really have. They got dropped out of the top 25. I was surprised, but I've always talked about the strength of the Big East, and I don't think that's been recognized enough across the nation. It's kind of a warm storyline that Coach Izzo's in. Not going to touch up much on them, but I do see them getting past USC before losing to Marquette. But this is an exciting region. Obviously, not the strongest region of all the 4, but there's going to be some very exciting games, starting with Memphis, Florida Atlantic. Those 2 teams are going to get up and down the floor. Kentucky, is Coach Calipari, able to get them past Providence? I don't know. I think because of our itinerary, we're not talking about some of the storylines or the rumors that are going on, but I do know Georgetown fired Patrick Ewing, and they are also looking at Ed Cooley as a replacement. So Can that storyline be a distraction? I hope not, because I actually picked Providence to win. So, um, yeah, this is gonna be, it's that time, I guess. It's that time of the madness. So I can't wait.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I feel like Ed Cooley's been there forever. At Providence,
He's been a Rhode
obviously,
Island guy.
yeah,
That's the thing. He's just been in Rhode Island U, and then he's been at Providence. So
yep,
I don't know. It'll be a hard, hard thing for him to leave, I think. But I mean, it's a distraction regardless, nonetheless, if that were to happen. So hey,
yeah,
we've seen stories like that happen all the time. The year Coach Fish won his NCAA tournament, he took over that Michigan team weeks after Bill Frieder got fired because he accepted the job at Arizona State mid-season, and they just let him go. So those storylines are there, and I just hope it's not a distraction. So we'll see.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting East Regional. Obviously, all eyes kind of on Purdue. But like you said, I think Marquette and some of these Big East teams are going to definitely have something to say about all that.